Well, people, so we checked out a new Shudder original that will be dropping soon called Night of the Reaper. Yes, this is the brand new film from Brandon Christensen, who co-wrote the film with his brother Ryan Christensen. It is produced by Justin A. Martell, Michael Peterson, Matt Mangarades, David Hyatt. It is executive produced by Nina Colacori, Ali Moreno, James Norrie, and co-produced by Sigir Dixon. David Arcus, Terry Ben, and Michelle Usi took care of the score. Clayton Moore is on cinematography. Jason Ferrion took care of the casting. Okay, set decoration is Jin Fedotov. Costume design, Tracy Graham. We've got Megan Jackson and David Tranor on hair and makeup. Brandon Christensen also did the visual effects. Lindsay Detz is the only person listed for stunts. Right, so our cast. Deena is played by Jessica Clement. Right, we have got her sister Emily, played by Summer H. Howell. There is Deena's best friend Hattie, played by Savannah Miller. We've got Mark, the kid that Emily babysits, and then Deena does. He is played by Huxley Fisher. His dad, Sheriff Rod, is played by Ryan Robbins. Butch is played by Matty Finocchio. Chad is played by Ben Cockell. Chad's friend Willis is played by Brian Samuel. We got Max Arnold, played by Max Christensen. Who else? Sheila is played by Susan Serrao. Connor, played by Drake Sippart. Marina is played by Isla Spencer. Blair Young is Dr. Hall. Abby, played by Jocelyn Chug. And another one of the police officers is played by Rory Edgar. So, the gist: college student Deena visits home and is roped into babysitting. The local sheriff is mailed a piece of evidence and is led on a scavenger hunt to reveal the killer of another babysitter. Yeah, not the best written synopsis, but that is more or less, right, the gist of what happens here. So yeah, we kind of start off and we got a girl babysitting and just some odd things start happening, right? So yeah, like she's walking around the house trying to work out what's going on, you know. It is one of those ones where like people are doing things, going places, and you're just like, what? Why would you do that? Why would you go there? Like, pick up a weapon, you know what I mean? Just like do some logical shit, right? But it all goes wrong, let's just say, for this girl. So we have that. And then we have did we have the funeral? Anyway, we have a girl and she's walking. A guy jumps out of a van, right? The girl's Deena, and it's Chad and Willis, right? And I mean, Chad's got a camera, and she's irritated with Chad. The interaction with Willis was interesting, right? So we have that, and she meets her best friend, right? And the best friend talks about babysitting, and she fancies the sheriff, and it's just all of this. But her friend gets ill, and she's like, "Oh, can you help me out? I don't want to lose my job," right? So Deena eventually goes and babysits for her friend. Now, another part of the story is the sheriff, these packages kind of keep on turning up, right? The sheriff gets one, and then like people get them, and it's instructed to give them to the sheriff, right? And in these packages, there's like these tapes, and these tapes are kind of revealing information, right? And there are all of these, all of this information is leading the sheriff to different places. Sometimes it's for another box, and then other times it's like, this other bit of evidence. So we have all of this stuff going on. And it turns out that there is a killer in the town, which is, ooh. Right? And the killing babysitters. That's the big thing. Right? And so we kind of get to a bit where, right, everything is going crazy. Right? Everything is kind of going crazy. And then the story like really kicks into another gear. Now, like, it's interesting. We have some decent acting here. Right? Brandon Christensen, he's written some other films, right? He had The Puppet Man, Superhost. I forget what I thought of Puppet Man. I thought Superhost was pretty good. And with this one, there are some interesting elements here, right? There are definitely some interesting elements. And then we get like, it's one of those ones with certain films, right? Where they are showing you this evidence. And a lot of times it's pointing at a certain person. But you kind of go, okay, it can't be that person, because that's just way too easy, right? And it's never that simple in a film like this, right? So then you're trying to go, okay, what's going on? You're trying to figure it all out, which is, that can be fun. But I kind of felt that the way everything then unravels, right? And we, are then hit with, this is what's really going on. It did feel a little bit, because I think there are those films where everything is actually playing out in front of you. You just have to, it's all about paying attention. Right? So you might get to the big reveal at the end, and then you're like, oh my God, right, because that happened, and then that happened, and boom, boom, boom. So all the, like, you saw them, they were there, but it's just, the way the film kind of led you to look in a different direction, or the focus was somewhere else, so you might not have paid attention to that thing. Right? And that's always very smart, because sometimes you do spot the thing, right? And other times you might not. And that's very good. Now, some other times they're like, oh, this is what happened. And you're like, yeah, but we didn't see any of that. You know what I mean? It's just like, it feels like a little bit of a cop out because it's like none of that stuff you actually showed, right? And that's kind of what happens here. That some of the reveals are things that we didn't even see. Now, I think you can make a conclusion on who it's not, right? I think for who it, like, you know, when everything is revealed, there is a kind of a bit like, why though? You know what I mean? Because I think fame isn't necessarily the kind of the thing that you think is the big pull factor, right? There's got to be another reason, especially when like some other stuff is laid out, right? So you go, there must be another, but we don't really get that conclusion. You know what I mean? And it, you know, because it kind of then shifts the film into this different thing. And that's all well and good, right? It can be fun. But I just thought that the mechanism used doesn't necessarily make any sense. And then once you get this whole big, you know, revelation and everything like that, right, you can understand the motive, but a lot of the pieces, the threads, do feel very kind of like forced, very out there, which is a shame. Right? Like there's this whole kind of, yeah, it's hard to kind of, you know, talk about certain bits, but you do not want to reveal much here, right? So, yeah, there's a kind of a thing, and you're just a bit like, I think that feels like it goes against what a character might be or something like along those lines kind of thing, you know what I mean? And also there's a reaction from a character that really feels kind of odd. Definitely feels kind of odd, right? Because you're just like, your character is so how would you be like, you know what I mean? It kind of goes against the grain of things, right? It's a valiant attempt, you know, like they're trying to do this thing, which, you know, you can only just like applaud them for the effort. Right? You do that. You be like, okay, nice try, guys. And, you know, as I say, other elements are good. Like the sound design is very good. We do have some great acting. You know what I mean? So these things work. But, like, yeah, there's some issues with the script and the story because there's just elements that don't quite make sense or quite add up. And and also it's like, well, if that's the case, then these events don't really make any sense, or the reactions to don't really make any sense. Because you'd understand it if there's an audience. But if there's no audience, then there's no need to do that thing or act in that way. You know what I mean? So it, it it's trying to be smart, but it doesn't quite add up enough for it to feel like a payoff. Which, yeah, it is a shame. Is a shame. But, it's not a dud, right? It's definitely not a dud. But it's like, if it had all played out the way, they're trying to, I think you might go, okay, this film was a great 8, right? But because, it doesn't, it then just makes the film, 5, 6, which is a shame, right? It's a shame. But, as I said, there's some good bits, and there's people that won't maybe pay as much attention to some of the pitfalls of the film. Right? It depends on the things that grab you, that fascinate you, that draw you and hold you to a story. Right? I feel that's the big one with this. Because if you are just like, I don't mind, right? I can let certain things go. I'm more about this, and this. Then, yeah, Night of the Reaper could very well be, a great flick for you. So yeah, it's a Shudder original, so that's where you will find it. And I guess if you like Brandon's other films, Puppet Man, oh God, what did I say earlier? Oh my God, Superhost, yeah, Superhost, right? If you like that, if you liked the Twin, right, that we looked at just recently, I think this will kind of talk to you. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's one of those, like Clown in the Cornfield. If those films, you enjoyed them, then I think you might well enjoy Night of the Reaper.